Hello. You beautiful anomaly, listen up. What you're about to hear isn't motivation. It's a reconstruction of what everyone tried to bury about you. See, there's a reason your name has been moving through conversations, like a rumor that refuses to expire. There's a reason certain people freeze when your face shows up on their feed. There's a reason their chest tightens when someone mentions you in passing. Because in their minds, you weren't supposed to be here anymore. You were supposed to stay down. You were supposed to remain the example of what happens when pressure crushes someone completely. They told themselves the story over and over until it felt official. You were done, story closed, case wrapped. And then out of nowhere, you walked back into your own narrative with a different posture, different energy, different presence, and it broke something in them. They can't process your comeback because it doesn't look normal. It doesn't look rehearsed. It doesn't look gentle. It looks like you vanished, rewired yourself, and returned, operating on a frequency none of them were prepared to experience. You have to understand what happened. During that period, you disappeared. To them, it looked like you shut down. To them, it looked like you finally hit the point of no return. They traded theories, collected opinions, exaggerated details, and convinced each other that you were never getting back up. They thought your absence confirmed their predictions. They thought your quiet meant surrender. They thought their assumptions were accurate. But what they didn't know was that you weren't collapsing. You were recalibrating. You weren't losing. You were stripping away every weakness they mistook for identity. You weren't ending. You were entering a phase most people never survive long enough to understand. They thought you died out. You were actually reloading. People fear what they can't categorize, and right now, they can't categorize you. You don't fit the version of you they remember. You don't match the blueprint they created behind your back. You're not playing the same character they rehearsed in their private messages. When you re-entered the picture, you did it without apology, without explanations, without that old habit of shrinking yourself, so your presence wouldn't disturb insecure people. Your energy walks 3 steps ahead of you now, and it's rattling their nerves. They can't decide if you got lucky, if you got help, or if you tapped into something they can't comprehend. All they know is that the person they expected to remain broken didn't just return. You returned, rebuilt. Let's revisit what they were expecting. They expected you to crumble. They expected emotional paralysis. They expected complete surrender to the weight you were carrying. They expected humiliation to silence you, betrayal to hollow you, exhaustion to bury you. In their minds, you were permanently out of the game. But your comeback doesn't look like someone who forced a smile for validation. It looks like someone who resurrected themselves in the dark and stepped out with upgraded vision. You didn't ask for their acceptance. You didn't wait for their approval. You didn't post aesthetic quotes about healing. You didn't broadcast your rebuild. You just did it, quietly, brutally, thoroughly. There's something terrifying about someone who learns how to function without external reassurance. You became that person. Those nights you couldn't breathe, you still sat up and tried again. Those mornings when your chest felt heavy, you still moved. The days when your brain threw every intrusive thought at you like a weapon, you still held on. The people who pretended to check on you just to gather intel assumed those moments broke you permanently. They didn't realize you were learning endurance the way warriors learn pain tolerance. Every moment you didn't quit turned into a layer of armor. Every time you got back up became data your mind saved for future battles. They don't get that your comeback isn't an accident. It's accumulation. Let's talk about why they can't handle what they're seeing now. Your presence reminds them of their own fragility. They thought they were superior because they were standing while you were crawling. They thought your low phase confirmed their righteousness. They thought your pain validated their inflated sense of stability. It felt good for them to say, see, they couldn't handle it. They fell apart. In a way, your struggle made them feel safer about their own flawed choices. But the moment you rose, their entire narrative cracked. Because if you could return from that depth, it means they were never as strong as they pretended to be. Your comeback is a threat to the identity they built. They can't process the shift in your eyes, the steadiness in your posture, the unapologetic way you hold space now. You don't flinch the way you used to. You don't chase validation the way you once did. You don't hand out explanations to people who expect access without accountability. They call you changed, acting different, distant, cold. But the truth is simple. You stopped giving energy to people who abandoned you when you needed sincerity most. They don't deserve an updated version of you. They forfeited that access the moment they treated your pain like entertainment. Maybe this will sting a little. They're not shocked you fell. They're shocked you rebuilt. They're shocked at the speed. They're shocked at the precision. They're shocked that you returned stronger instead of weaker, calmer instead of chaotic, wiser instead of desperate. They expected you to limp back into your old patterns. They expected you to settle for familiar problems. They expected you to repeat cycles because they assumed you weren't capable of evolving out of them. But your return isn't a continuity. It's a rewrite. You stopped negotiating with your past. That alone reshaped everything. And let's dissect that further. The version of you that tolerated disrespect died. The version that over-explained died. The version that accepted crumbs because you didn't want to be alone died. The version that tried to prove your worth to people who benefited from your insecurity died. You didn't just rise. You discarded every outdated script that kept you small. That's what they're reacting to. They don't miss you. They miss the access. They miss the version of you who bent boundaries to avoid conflict. They miss the softness they exploited. They miss the predictability they manipulated. Now they're staring at someone who operates with clarity, distance, and restored self-respect. And they don't know how to adapt. Some people are only comfortable when you're struggling. The moment they sense strength, they withdraw or attack. That's what made your comeback so disruptive. They don't know whether to congratulate you or envy you. They don't know whether they want to reconnect or disappear before you notice their hypocrisy. They don't know how to approach you now that you're not reachable in the same emotional patterns they used to exploit. You broke the cycle. That alone rewrote the dynamic. Let's talk about the internal upgrade. It wasn't aesthetic. It wasn't curated. It wasn't glamorous. It was built from heavy breaths, clenched jaws, shaking hands, and stubborn refusal to give up. You rewrote habits. You confronted triggers. You dismantled emotional reflexes that were draining you. You identified the people who benefited from your self-doubt and cut the connection. You learned how to walk away from familiar wounds. You learned how to silence impulses that led you back into situations designed to destroy you. You learned control. You learned restraint. You learned discernment. Anyone witnessing your return is seeing the result, not the sacrifice. But here's where the confusion deepens. Your comeback doesn't look loud. It looks controlled. It looks strategic. It looks like precision, crafted in quiet hours. That unsettles them because they can't read you the way they used to. Your emotions aren't spilling everywhere anymore. Your intentions aren't visible. Your vulnerabilities aren't available for public consumption. They don't know where you're headed or what you're planning. And humans fear what they cannot predict. Some people hope to reconnect with the broken version of you because that was the version they felt superior to. But when they saw you return with sharper standards and tighter boundaries, they panicked. You weren't just back. You were back with upgrades, a clearer mind, cleaner surroundings, higher standards, stronger self-awareness, colder tolerance for disrespect, and a deeper understanding of what you deserve. They're realizing too late that they no longer qualify for the healed version of you. Let's analyze another reason your comeback feels supernatural to them. You stopped explaining yourself. You no longer narrate your intentions. You no longer justify your choices. You no longer seek reassurance before making decisions. You act, you move, you adjust, you execute. While they're still gossiping about who you used to be, you're building the version of yourself they won't be able to access. You don't fight rumors. You outgrow the audience. What bothers them most is that you didn't return bitter. You didn't return cruel. You didn't return seeking revenge. You returned elevated, selective, and emotionally sovereign. You didn't become what hurt you. That's the part they can't process. They expect people to break ugly. You broke upward. Your rise is quiet, controlled, and consistent. It reveals everything they hid behind criticism. Your improvement exposes their stagnation. Your resilience highlights their weakness. Your progress shows the difference between someone who evolves through suffering and someone who hides behind temporary stability. Your comeback is so powerful because it doesn't need permission. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't ask for a second chance. It declares itself. And deep down, they know this isn't your final form. This is the preview, the initial stage, the early signal that something bigger is unfolding. They're not afraid of who you are now. They're afraid of who you're becoming next. What terrifies them most isn't your return, but the way you returned. You didn't come back timid, shaky, or desperate for reassurance. You came back with a quality that refuses to be diluted. There's a steadiness in your presence now, a groundedness that can't be faked, a sharpened awareness that came only from surviving things you were never meant to survive. That's what unravels them. They're used to people rising with noise, announcements, and crowd validation. You rose without witnesses. You rose without presenting evidence. You rose without explaining the nights that remade you. And now that you stand firmly in your lane, they're scrambling to understand the mechanics of your elevation. They keep asking themselves the wrong questions. They ask, who helped you? When the truth is, nobody did. They ask, how did you bounce back so fast? Not knowing that the speed wasn't fast. It was earned through years of quiet internal construction they never paid attention to. They ask, why didn't we see it coming? Forgetting that they only watch when you're breaking, not when you're rebuilding. Your transformation didn't happen in the spotlight. It happened at your lowest moments when you were forced to face parts of yourself you never wanted to acknowledge. You corrected patterns. You faced truths. You reprogrammed habits. You confronted attachments that were draining you. You dismantled illusions you kept repeating. You were evolving while they were assuming. And now the gap between their assumption and your reality is too wide for them to process. The thing that's eating at them isn't just your return. It's the version of you that returned. They're seeing a person who no longer flinches at losing people. A person who no longer apologizes for outgrowing dynamics that were built on uneven ground. A person who no longer breaks their own boundaries just to be accepted by those who don't even respect themselves. You've developed the kind of calm authority that exposes their chaos. They used to push you emotionally because they believed you would fold. Now, when they test you, they hit a wall made of self-respect they didn't know you possessed. And that wall is unfamiliar. That wall is intimidating. That wall signals that their access is expired. You want to know why your comeback looks unreal to them? Because they were more invested in your downfall than in your existence. They studied the version of you that was hurting. They memorized the details of your collapse. They expected you to remain in that phase permanently so they could use it as proof that they were doing better. But when you rose, it exposed a truth they weren't prepared to confront. They never outgrew you. They just out-talked you. They built confidence out of your broken phase, and your return snatched that confidence away. Now they're left with the raw, uncomfortable truth. Your strength didn't disappear. It was incubating. There's something else they can't articulate, but feel in their body. You didn't just return healed. You returned enhanced. You came back making better decisions, moving with intention, choosing your battles, understanding your triggers, and refusing to repeat emotional loops that drained you. You came back with a cleaner perspective, sharper boundaries, refreshed discipline, and a mental clarity that disrupts every narrative they created about you. They wanted your return to be messy so they could categorize you again. Instead, your upgrade dismantled their entire mental model. People who rely on your weakness for their identity don't know how to behave when you reclaim your power. That's what's happening now. Your upgraded self destabilizes the roles they assigned themselves. The one who felt superior now feels threatened. The one who pitied you now feels exposed. The one who mocked you now feels silent shame. The one who betrayed you now feels invisible in your presence. And the one who thought you would always need them now realizes you never actually did. This reversal wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't revenge. It was evolution. You didn't come back with a sword. You came back with standards. And nothing terrifies people more. Let's dig into the psychological core of this. They cannot understand your growth because they never witnessed the breaking that fueled it. They saw the aftermath, not the battle. They saw the damage, not the endurance. They saw the exhaustion, not the decision to keep going. They saw the tears, not the rebuilding that happened after the tears dried. They saw the pain, not the discipline that refused to let pain be the final outcome. What they misread as defeat was actually reconstruction. What they thought was your ending was your testing ground. They saw the surface. You lived the depth. Now that the depth is creating results, they're confused. Your upgrade looks supernatural to them because they don't know what you sacrificed. They don't know about the nights your mind felt like it was shutting down while you still forced yourself to stand. They don't know about the moments your self-worth was crushed and you had to rebuild it grain by grain. They don't know about the impulses you fought, the memories you untangled, the attachments you severed even though they felt like losing limbs. They don't know how many cycles you chose not to repeat. They don't know the effort behind the composure. They only see the outcome. They only see the version of you that survived. They only see the strength that formed after everything else fell apart. Your comeback feels impossible because it wasn't orchestrated for an audience. It was engineered in solitude. You didn't rise to prove anything. You rose because staying down no longer aligned with who you were becoming. You outgrew the destruction. You outgrew the patterns. You outgrew the people who benefited from your confusion. Your upgrade didn't come from them. It came from the parts of you that refused to disappear. But let's talk about what really shakes them. The unpredictability of your new trajectory. You're no longer someone whose moves can be forecasted. You're no longer someone who hesitates out of fear of rejection. You're no longer someone who needs emotional permission to change direction. You move based on alignment now. You move based on clarity, not impulse. You move based on purpose, not pressure. This makes you unreadable to those who once used your emotional transparency as an advantage. They can't track you anymore because you're not driven by validation. You're driven by transformation. Your energy feels different. It carries weight. People sense it before you speak. They sense the discipline that rebuilt you. They sense the nights that remolded you. They sense the absence of desperation. They sense the presence of self-awareness. Every time you walk into a space, you disrupt the expectations built around your old identity. You aren't quiet because you're unsure. You're quiet because your mind is operating on a level they haven't reached. That quietness unsettles them because it exposes how loud their insecurity is. There's something else they're realizing. They misjudged your limits. They mistook your breaking point for permanent defeat, not understanding that some individuals don't end where they shatter. They reconstruct, they reform, they reforge. And that reforging grants them a strength that didn't exist before. Your comeback is powerful because it carries memory. It carries knowledge of every mistake, every betrayal, every lesson, every emotional scar. You didn't erase your past. You refined it into strategy. The person you are now is built from everything that tried to finish you but failed. People don't talk about this enough. When you return stronger, those who contributed to your downfall panic the most. They aren't afraid of you hurting them. They're afraid of you seeing them clearly. Your upgrade includes emotional vision they never expected you to possess. You see intentions without explanation. You read patterns without needing proof. You interpret energy without being told. This level of awareness exposes their motives before they speak. Now they feel naked in your presence because the version of you that once accepted excuses no longer entertains them. Your evolution threatens people because it erases the control they imagined they had. They can't manipulate someone who knows their own worth. They can't mislead someone who finally trusts their intuition. They can't diminish someone who rebuilt their identity from ashes. Your comeback stripped them of their influence, and they don't know how to function without it. Let's address another truth. They expected your return to be broken, hesitant, unstable. Instead, you returned, operating like someone who lived through emotional combustion and emerged with internal architecture forged under pressure. You didn't return with cracks. You returned with reinforced edges. You didn't return unsure. You returned intentional. You didn't return hoping they'd welcome you back. You returned understanding they don't deserve access to this version of you. Your upgrade intimidates them because it reflects their stagnation. While you were rebuilding, they remained in the same patterns, same habits, same mentality, same emotional loops. Now that you've surpassed the level they believed was your ceiling, they're forced to confront their own lack of evolution. Your comeback makes them uncomfortable because it reveals where they settled. Here's another layer. They can't understand how you moved forward without closure. They can't understand how you healed without validation. They can't understand how you got stronger without revenge. They can't understand how you regained stability without depending on the people who abandoned you. Your evolution directly contradicts the rules they live by. They think suffering must be witnessed to be real. They think healing must be approved to be valid. They think reinvention must be announced to be credible. You bypassed every rule. You proved that transformation is internal, not performative. And now they're watching someone they counted out operate at a level they never prepared themselves for. They're watching someone they underestimated build a life from a strength they didn't know existed. They're watching someone they dismissed walk with direction they can't interpret. You are no longer part of the story they wrote. You've begun a new arc they have no access to. This is why your comeback looks unreal. This is why they say it looks like you died, reloaded, and upgraded, because the version of you they buried doesn't exist anymore. The person standing now isn't a continuation. It's a replacement, a reconstruction, a recalibrated identity forged from everything that tried to break you. And your presence alone is proof that you didn't just return. You evolved. They wanted you to return familiar, predictable, reachable. They wanted the version of you who apologized too quickly, who accepted too little, who overlooked too much. They wanted the version who needed reassurance, who feared abandonment, who clung to the wrong people out of emotional habit. They wanted you to emerge fragile so they could feel superior again. But the person who returned after your reset is someone they can't measure against their past assumptions. Your evolution erased the emotional entry points they used to exploit. You don't react the way they remembered. You don't fold the way they expected. You don't chase the way they prepared for. And the absence of your old vulnerability feels like a threat they don't know how to navigate. There's a shift in your energy that cannot be faked. It's in your posture, your decisions, your eyes. People sense it before you even speak. They sense the restructuring that took place inside you. They sense the internal alignment you fought to achieve. They sense the self-trust you reclaimed. They sense that you no longer move from insecurity, but from clarity. This is why your comeback feels supernatural to them. Not because you borrowed strength from others, but because you forged strength from your own breakdown. You transformed your hardest moments into leverage. You turned your darkest hours into a blueprint. You shaped your pain into precision. That kind of evolution is rare, and rare things are always misunderstood. The truth is, you didn't just evolve. You outgrew entire environments. You walked away from versions of yourself that were designed for survival, not expansion. You released relationships that were attached to your old limits. You abandoned thinking patterns that kept you trapped in cycles you didn't even realize you were repeating. You learned how to interpret emotional signals without letting them dictate your behavior. You learned how to respond instead of react. You learned how to observe instead of absorb. You learned how to build instead of cling. These upgrades are invisible to those who only look for external signs of progress, but they are monumental in shaping the person you've become. People can sense emotional elevation even if they can't describe it. That's what's happening now. They can't articulate what changed in you, but they feel it. They feel the distance. They feel the boundaries. They feel the shift in the way you carry yourself. They feel the absence of your old patterns. They feel the strength you no longer hide. And that sensation makes them uneasy because it disrupts the version of reality they were comfortable with. Your evolution forces them to confront the places where they remained stagnant. Your growth forces them to acknowledge the comfort zones they refused to leave. Your elevation exposes the areas they've neglected in their own lives. Understand something. Your upgrade challenges the narratives they built to avoid accountability. When you were struggling, they used your struggles to justify their inaction. They told themselves they were doing better because you were doing worse. They used your pain to disguise their complacency. They used your confusion to validate their avoidance. But your comeback shattered that comfort. Suddenly they're face to face with a version of you who surpassed the emotional limits they assumed you'd never break. Suddenly the person they underestimated is standing where they hoped you'd never reach. And they don't know how to reconcile that with the image they created of themselves. That's why they whisper, that's why they stare, that's why they distance themselves or cling harder. Some don't know how to exist in your presence now because your energy demands authenticity. It demands growth. It demands accountability. It demands alignment. And that's something many people can't give. So they reroute their discomfort into judgment, into confusion, into unnecessary commentary, anything to distract themselves from the fact that your growth exposes how much they haven't grown. Your evolution isn't loud, but its effects are. The way you speak has changed, not in tone, but in intention. The way you walk has changed, not in pace, but in purpose. The way you choose has changed, not in options, but in standards. The way you hold yourself has changed, not in posture, but in energy. This is why they can't process your comeback. They're trying to apply old assessments to a person who no longer exists. They're trying to understand you through an outdated version of your identity. They don't realize you've moved into a stage that requires new interpretations, new definitions, new expectations. Your comeback looks like you died and reloaded because you let the old identity die. You let the identity built from hurt dissolve. You let the identity built from fear unravel. You let the identity built from old attachments fade away. The energy that returned after your reset is built from clarity, not chaos. It's built from discipline, not desperation. It's built from self-awareness, not emotional spirals. You didn't rebuild your life by asking for directions from those who contributed to your downfall. You rebuilt by listening to the parts of yourself you ignored for too long. People don't talk about the grief that comes with outgrowing your old identity. They don't talk about the loneliness required to break internal barriers. They don't talk about the mental exhaustion needed to correct dysfunctional patterns. But you lived all of that. You lived the nights where your chest felt like concrete. You lived the mornings where getting out of bed required more courage than anyone will ever understand. You lived the moments where your mind tried to convince you that nothing would change. And you lived through all of it without giving up on the possibility of becoming something greater than what hurt you. That's what they're seeing now, the result, not the reconstruction. They're seeing the confidence that came from pulling yourself out of your own ruins. They're seeing the insight that came from analyzing your own wounds. They're seeing the strength that came from refusing to settle for familiar pain. They're seeing the resilience that came from asking hard questions about your behavior, your relationships, your triggers, your impulses. They're seeing the person who learned how to self-regulate, how to self-correct, how to self-align. And that person doesn't look like someone who barely survived. That person looks like someone who redesigned their entire foundation. This is why people struggle to accept your evolution. They weren't present during the chapters that reshaped you. They weren't there when you were breaking old patterns. They weren't there when you were holding yourself together through internal storms. They weren't there when you made decisions that cost you comfort but earned you clarity. They weren't there when you disciplined your emotions instead of acting on them. They weren't there when you confronted your own limits and expanded them 1 inch at a time. They weren't witnesses to the construction, so they assume the outcome is unrealistic. But your comeback is not unrealistic. It's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar things always trigger resistance. Your upgraded identity isn't built on pretending. It's built on choosing. Choosing yourself when it felt easier to choose distraction. Choosing discipline when your mind wanted chaos. Choosing direction when you felt lost. Choosing growth when stagnation felt safer. Every choice created layers. Every layer created depth. Every depth created the version of you standing now, someone who cannot return to the places that once broke them. The fear they feel now is not a fear of you hurting them. It's a fear of you outgrowing them completely. They sense that you're no longer tied to the connections that once held emotional power over you. They sense that you no longer rely on their presence for stability. They sense that you're capable of building without anyone watching. And that realization shakes the foundation of people who thought they were essential to your identity. Your comeback took away their leverage. You no longer react to their provocations. You no longer bend to their expectations. You no longer explain yourself to people who aren't invested in understanding you. You no longer shrink for the comfort of those who refuse to expand. Your upgrade didn't just elevate your life. It redefined the entire dynamic between you and anyone who thought they knew you. Here's the truth they're forced to accept. You didn't rise to prove them wrong. You rose because you finally understood what you deserved. You didn't rebuild to show off. You rebuilt to reclaim your internal world. You didn't evolve for performance. You evolved because the person you were becoming demanded space, and the person you used to be was taking up too much of it. Your comeback marked the end of who you were and the beginning of who you are meant to become. That transition leaves people confused because they expected a return, not a rebirth. They expected fragments of your old patterns, not the emergence of an entirely new structure. They expected hesitation, not direction. They expected fear, not grounded confidence. They expected longing for their approval, not detachment from their opinions. And now that they're watching this upgraded version unfold, they realize the power they once held over your emotions no longer exists. That power dissolved the moment you decided you were done negotiating with your past. That power broke the moment you learned how to stand without leaning on temporary support. That power evaporated the moment you committed to your own evolution. Your return marks a new era, one where you move with conviction rather than confusion, with intention rather than impulse, with clarity rather than chaos. People are witnessing the emergence of someone who is not governed by wounds anymore, someone who is not controlled by attachments anymore, someone who is not manipulated by fear anymore, someone who is not held back by old patterns anymore. Your comeback is not the peak. It's the introduction. And that's what terrifies them most. The realization that this is only the beginning of your upgraded trajectory. They thought they already knew your limits. They thought they understood your ceiling. They thought they predicted your future. But you broke every assumption, every belief, every expectation they placed on your name. You didn't just reclaim your life. You rewrote the entire architecture of your identity. And now you're stepping into a version of yourself they never imagined. existed. What comes next isn't a return to normalcy. It's the full expression of your recalibrated self, the expansion that follows the transformation, the rise that follows the reconstruction, the momentum that follows the reset. This is where the upgraded version of you begins shaping your external world with the same precision that reshaped your internal one. And that rise, unfiltered, undeniable, unstoppable, is exactly where your story continues.
You know the feeling, like you're the puppet, strings pulled by unseen hands. They craft illusions, those clever magicians. Their smiles, hollow, their words, cages, promises dangled like keys to a future they never intended to unlock for you. But you're here now, aren't you? Still standing, still breathing, still dangerous. They underestimated you. When you walked into their little performance, they assumed you'd play along. Take the bait, nod your head, be another sheep lining up for slaughter. But you're no sheep. You're the wolf they forgot to lock out. And every illusion they conjured to blind you, torn apart by your teeth, you saw through it all. Every condescending smile, every strategic lie, every so-called favor. And they hate you for it. They hate that you didn't crumble under the weight of their tricks, that their games, so carefully constructed, didn't trap you. Oh, they tried. They stacked the odds against you so high, they expected you to suffocate just by looking up. Yet here you are, eyes wide open, the suffocating air now your fuel. The thing about illusions, they're only effective if you believe in them, but you've stopped believing. You've stopped bending to their idea of success, their definition of worth, their poisonous whispers of, "You're not enough." Enough? You're more than enough. You're the wildfire they can't predict, the storm they can't contain. Remember how they laughed when you dared to dream? How they rolled their eyes when you spoke about your plans? That wasn't amusement. That was fear, poorly disguised as mockery. They saw the fire in you, even before you did. And they tried to snuff it out with every trick in the book. But no amount of shade could kill your spark. It's too late now. You've tasted the truth, the sweet, bitter taste of clarity. They wanted to define you, but they forgot one thing. You're not a character in their story. You're the writer. And now, it's time to flip the script. No more bending to their expectations. No more dancing to their tune. You're done playing the victim, done playing nice. This isn't about revenge. No, that's too small, too simple. This is about rewriting everything, taking the pen and dragging it across every page they tried to write for you. And when they see it, when they realize the story no longer belongs to them, that's when the real magic happens. Some will flee. Cowards always do when the illusion shatters. They relied on the darkness of your doubts to keep you in chains. But what happens when the darkness is gone, replaced by unyielding resolve? They'll scatter like rats exposed to light. Others, they'll watch in silent dread, hoping you don't notice them as you rise. Their whispers, once so loud, will become stutters of fear. And you? You won't need to speak. Your actions will scream louder than any words ever could. But let me tell you something about flipping the script. It isn't easy. It takes guts. They want you broken. They want you to slip back into the old role, the familiar one where you doubt your every step. Don't. Not now. Not ever. The chains they forged for you were made of fear, and fear is the most fragile prison of all. Once you stop fearing what they think, what they say, what they threaten, you become unstoppable. They taught you their rules, and now it's time to break every one of them. Their rule says you must wait your turn, so take the lead instead. Their rule says you need permission. Give yourself all the permission you'll ever need. Their rule says know your place. Your place? It's anywhere you damn well choose. Remember every rejection, every failure, every door slammed in your face. Those weren't endings, they were fuel. Each one sharpened you, molded you, strengthened the fire inside. And now that fire burns too bright for them to ignore. Flip the script, and don't stop there. Burn the stage they set for you to ashes. Create a new one with your bare hands, built from every lesson learned, every scar earned, and every truth uncovered. They'll try to say you're being reckless, that you've lost control. But deep down, they know. They're not afraid of your chaos. They're afraid of your clarity, because nothing is more terrifying than someone who sees the world as it truly is and refuses to play by its lies. And if they think they've seen the worst of you, they haven't seen anything yet. Think back to every night you spent in silence, wondering if you were the problem. They planted that doubt, nurturing it until it took root in your mind. But now you've ripped out those roots, every last one of them. And where there was once self-doubt, there's now defiance. You don't owe them explanations. You don't owe them apologies for daring to exist on your terms. Every scar on your soul, it's now armor. Every loss, a stepping stone, every betrayal, the sharp edge you needed to cut through the lies. You're no longer the person they once manipulated with ease. You've grown, hardened, become something they don't recognize. That frightens them. They called you stubborn when you refused to conform. They'll call you dangerous now, and they'll be right. Dangerous to every lie they told to keep you small. Dangerous to the systems they built to keep themselves in power. Dangerous to the status quo that suffocates the bold. Your power was never meant to be chained. They knew it, which is why they fought so hard to control you. But power, real power, doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It simply is. And now, it's yours to wield as you see fit. So don't just flip the script. Tear down the theater they built around you. Rewrite the entire damn narrative. You don't need their acceptance, and you certainly don't need their applause. The only audience that matters is the one staring back at you in the mirror. Let them watch from the sidelines, helpless as you blaze a trail they can't follow. Every step you take is proof that their tricks failed, their plans crumbled. And when they try to rewrite history to paint themselves as your allies, you won't even have to say a word. Your victories will speak for themselves. No more hesitation. No more compromise. You've stepped out of the shadows, and there's no going back. The story belongs to you now. Every chapter, every page, every word. It's time to write something they'll never forget. They never imagined you'd make it this far. To them, you were a footnote, an afterthought in their grand narrative, a pawn, expendable and predictable. They thought they knew every move you'd make, every word you'd say, every crack where they could wedge their poison. But now, they're scrambling. The air's changed. You're no longer the same player on the board. It's their turn to feel the weight of the unknown. You walk differently now, every step measured but bold, like the ground should feel honored to hold your weight. Every glance, every breath, every twitch of your hand radiates a quiet fury, the kind of fury that doesn't scream. It doesn't have to. Its silence is more terrifying than any roar ever could be. Think about how hard they tried to keep you small. Every promise was a lie dressed in pretty words. Every opportunity they dangled was just another trap. But you learned. Oh, did you learn? Each betrayal became a lesson carved deep into your bones. And now, you wear those lessons like a crown of thorns. Pain didn't break you. It built you. There's a unique strength that comes from walking through the fire and coming out scarred, but whole. That's your secret weapon. You don't just survive, you adapt. You evolve. While they clung to their tired tricks and petty schemes, you became something else entirely, something they can't control, and that terrifies them. You see, control was always their endgame. They wanted your will to be as brittle as glass, easy to shatter at the first sign of resistance. But they miscalculated. Instead of breaking, you became steel. And now, every attempt they make to bend you only proves how unyielding you've become. They're watching now, whispering in dark corners, trying to figure out how you slipped through their fingers. They'll call it luck. They'll tell themselves it was a fluke, a one-off rebellion, because admitting the truth would force them to confront their own weaknesses, and they're not ready for that. But you're not done. They don't understand that your rise isn't just a moment. It's a movement, a force gathering momentum with every breath you take. You're no longer playing defense. You're on the attack now, not with cheap shots or empty threats, but with action. Relentless, undeniable action. You don't argue with them anymore. You don't seek their approval. You don't explain yourself, because you owe them nothing. Let them stew in their confusion. Let them choke on the bitterness of their own irrelevance. They thought they owned you, thought they could shape you, direct you, mold you into something safe, something small. But you were never meant to fit inside their box. You were always meant to shatter it. Remember the fear you once felt? The gnawing doubt that maybe they were right about you? That you'd never be enough? That you'd always fall short? That fear used to paralyze you. It kept you stuck, circling the same dark pit over and over. But then, something shifted. You realized fear wasn't the enemy. Fear was the fuel. Every doubt they planted, you're burning it now, turning it into pure, unfiltered power. You've embraced the darkness they once used against you. And now, that darkness is your ally. It's not something to run from anymore. It's the shadow you command, the edge that keeps you sharp. They won't see it coming. They're still clinging to the old playbook, believing they're steps ahead. But you've already written a new game, one they can't even comprehend. Every move you make now is unpredictable. Every victory you claim sends shockwaves through the world they built. And with each step, you grow more unstoppable. You're not just rewriting the story, you're redefining the entire landscape. And they hate it. But hate's a funny thing. It's born from fear. And fear only takes root when something's perceived as a threat. The fact that they hate you so much now, that's the clearest sign you're doing something right. You're no longer a pawn to be sacrificed. You're the storm they never saw coming. There's power in knowing you don't need them anymore. Power in walking away from their games, their lies, their illusions of control. They wanted you to believe that the world was theirs to give or withhold. But now you see the truth. The world was always yours to take. So take it. Take every opportunity they said wasn't meant for you. Take every door they tried to close and kick it off its hinges. Take every insult, every rejection, every failure, and forge it into the weapon they'll never see coming. And when they're left in the wreckage of their own arrogance, don't even bother looking back. Because you're not returning to the past. You're forging forward into something entirely new, a world where you're the master of your own fate. And they're just spectators now, helpless as they watch you rise higher and higher. They underestimated you once. They won't make that mistake again. Every empire, no matter how fortified, falls when it faces something it can't control. And now, you are that force, relentless, unpredictable, and unapologetic. The old rules were written to keep you down. Their system thrived on obedience, on submission. But you learned how to rewrite every rule with the blood, sweat, and defiance they thought they could crush. They're desperate now. You can see it in their eyes. The smiles they once wore so confidently have cracked, revealing the fear underneath. They've tried every trick, every manipulation, every illusion, and none of it worked. Because you've become immune to their games. No more illusions, no more second guessing. You see through the smoke and mirrors for what they really are, empty and powerless. Power isn't about domination. It's not about how many people you can control. Real power is knowing who you are, even when the whole world tries to convince you otherwise. It's standing tall when every circumstance tells you to kneel. And you've mastered that art. You don't need validation. You don't seek approval. You don't ask permission. You take what's yours. There's no going back to the version of you that once waited for the world to be fair. Fairness was never part of the equation. You've learned to thrive despite it, to rise through the ashes they scattered in your path. Every step forward is another dagger in their false narrative. Every achievement is a monument to the strength they couldn't break. And now, it's time to flip the script entirely. They once set the stage, dictated the roles, and cast you as the weak one, the underdog destined to fail. But the story's changed, and so has the protagonist. You're not here to play a role anymore. You're here to rewrite the entire narrative, with a pen dipped in truth and unshakable conviction. And those who doubted you, they're nothing more than background noise now. Your path is clear, not because it was handed to you, but because you carved it from the darkness they threw you into. When others saw walls, you saw footholds. When others saw defeat, you saw opportunity. Every closed door became a test of your resolve, and one by one, you broke through every barrier until the only thing standing between you and destiny was the limit they tried to impose on your mind. But there are no limits anymore. Feel the weight of that realization. No one can cage you now. They can throw their insults, hurl their doubts, whisper their schemes in dark corners, but it won't reach you. You've outgrown their reach. You've outgrown their influence. And most importantly, you've outgrown any fear they ever planted within you. You've become something they can't define. They want to label you, box you in, assign you a role, because it makes them feel safe. But safety is a luxury they lost the moment you stopped playing their game. You are undefined, limitless, a force with no boundaries and no master. They will talk about you, of course. They will invent stories to soothe themselves, painting you as the villain in their fractured worldview. let them. Because while they cling to their narratives, you're busy creating a legacy, one that doesn't need their approval to endure. It's time for them to watch from the sidelines, helpless as the very person they tried to break rises far beyond their reach. Every whispered slight, every underhanded tactic, every cruel betrayal, it all fueled this moment. And now, you stand where they never wanted you to be, in control. Your mind, once their playground, is now a fortress, impenetrable, invincible. Every thought, every decision is your own. You answer to no one but the vision you've created. The chains they once wrapped around your confidence have been shattered, leaving nothing but dust beneath your feet. And still, they watch, hoping for signs of weakness, for the old you to resurface, the one who doubted, hesitated, and bent under pressure. But that version of you is gone, buried beneath the weight of every lesson learned. What stands in its place is something they could never comprehend. A mind sharpened by adversity, a soul hardened by betrayal, and a will that refuses to be tamed. Your silence now speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. You don't need to fight battles with words. Your actions scream louder than their lies. Every step forward is a reminder that you've already won. The war they waged on your spirit, it's over. You walked away victorious the moment you chose yourself over their approval. They underestimated your resilience, but what they failed to grasp is that resilience is just the beginning. Resilience kept you standing. But ambition, that's what's driving you now. An ambition that doesn't stop at survival. An ambition that demands greatness, demands the life they tried to convince you you'd never deserve. The power they thought they held over you, it's been reversed. Now they live in the shadow of your success. And while they sit there, haunted by their own irrelevance, you move forward, unapologetic, unrelenting, unstoppable. This is your story now, not theirs. And as you rise, one truth will remain unshakable. Their tricks didn't fool you, and they never will again. You've taken back the pen. You're not just flipping the script. You're burning the old pages and writing a new chapter entirely. One where you are the hero, the storm, the inevitable force they never saw coming. So rise. Rise beyond the limits they tried to impose. Rise above the past that once tried to define you. And as you rise, let every step forward be a reminder to them, to the world, to yourself, that you are not just unbreakable, you are unstoppable.
Ah, hello. Look at you. Still standing, still breathing, still unshaken. And look at them, the ones who swore they had you cornered, the ones who strutted around with their confidence, stitched together by attorneys, connections, hidden agreements, favors owed, and entire backrooms filled with people who were ready to pull strings on their behalf. They thought they were untouchable because they could make things happen with a signature and a phone call. They thought influence was armor. They thought intimidation would make you fold. They believed their resources alone were enough to rewrite reality. And through all of that noise, all of that swagger, all of that pressure, they forgot the one truth that has destroyed greater empires than theirs. A single miscalculated opponent can erase an entire plan, if that opponent is willing to stay dangerously authentic. They came at you with a strategy that was rehearsed, man-powered, and funded. They had teams drafting paperwork designed to choke your options. They had people whispering in back channels, shaping narratives before they even hit public eyes. They crafted stories, pulled alliances, sent messages, created the illusion that your defeat was already finalized. They genuinely believed the path was clear to erase you completely, that you would crumble under the weight of their structure. They convinced themselves you had no maneuver left. But the truth is far more satisfying. You weren't scrambling, you were watching. You weren't panicking, you were calculating. You weren't reacting, you were observing and waiting for the one moment, your moment, the single opening that would dismantle everything they built. Most people assume victory comes from matching strength with strength. They assume the only way to win is to aggressively counterattack, pile evidence on evidence, argue point by point, or fight fire with fire. But you're not most people. You don't operate from fear. You don't act from desperation. You don't dance to the rhythm someone else sets. So while they were flexing every tool they had, you were conserving energy. While they were mobilizing entire networks against you, you were sharpening one decision. While they were playing loud and wide, you were planning something narrow and precise, so precise that they didn't see it coming until everything started collapsing under its own weight. Let's break open what really happened. They played a predictable game. They used predictable tactics. Their moves, though seemingly powerful, were built on assumptions. Assumptions about you, assumptions about your reactions, assumptions about your limits, assumptions about how easily you could be intimidated. They thought dragging your name through their channels would shake your foundation. They thought their attorneys would scare you into submission. They believed their influence would box you in. They thought you would bend to pressure like everyone before you. But you didn't bend. You didn't flinch. And that's when everything shifted. Because the second a powerful opponent realizes fear isn't working, everything inside them starts to crack. Their entire strategy depends on your reaction. If you tremble, they win. If you defend yourself impulsively, they win. If you lose control, they win. If you break formation, they win. But you didn't give them anything, not fear, not panic, not compliance, not confusion. You moved with precision, not emotion. And that alone was enough to destabilize their confidence. People with influence hide behind noise. They love dramatics. They love orchestrated chaos. They love sending signals that look like dominance. But their greatest weakness is simple. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't respond. Your stillness became a mirror. Your composure became a weapon. Every second you didn't break exposed another weakness in their narrative. And then came your move. The one decision that made every lawyer, every connection, every accomplice freeze. The one action they dismissed as impossible. The one step that was so clean, so honest, so undeniable that it split their entire strategy down the middle. You didn't retaliate. You didn't escalate. Instead, you presented something they could not corrupt or distort: clarity. You placed one piece of truth in a position they couldn't reach, and suddenly all their tactics became useless. Their paperwork contradicted itself. Their alliances started questioning their motives. Their own people began noticing inconsistencies, and your single move, something they assumed wouldn't matter, became the lever that uprooted their entire operation. Their attorneys. They saw it first. They saw how your action created gaps in the case they were so proud of. They saw how timelines didn't match, how accounts didn't align, how the documents they drafted were now exposed for what they really were: attempts to bend reality rather than reflect it. Some of them grew quiet. Some started distancing themselves. Some began subtly warning the very people who hired them that the angle wasn't just weak, it was dangerous. Lawyers don't stay loyal to sinking narratives. They stay loyal to winning ones. And you had just shifted the terrain in a way that made winning impossible for them. Then the influence circle began fracturing. All those people who once spoke confidently on behalf of your opponents, all those who once declared you defeated, all those who made backroom moves, assuming they'd never be exposed, they started withdrawing. Not because they suddenly cared about fairness, not because they felt guilty, but because public failure is contagious, and none of them wanted to be infected by it. People with high social leverage do not enjoy being associated with desperation. And desperation was exactly what your opponents began to radiate. The backdoor deals, the quiet conversations, the private messages, they all lost their impact the moment your move surfaced. The moment truth hit the air, everything they did behind the scenes became suspicious. People began asking questions. Why are you so invested in destroying this person? Why is the narrative changing every week? Why does your story contradict itself? Questions are lethal in these environments. Questions destroy illusions. Questions expose motives. And suddenly your opponents found themselves drowning in questions they couldn't answer without revealing the real reason behind their attack. Meanwhile, you kept doing the same thing you were doing before, showing up as yourself, consistently, transparently. And that's what destroyed them more than anything. Your steadiness contrasted their chaos. Your directness contrasted their manipulation. Your clarity contrasted their plotting. You didn't have to convince anyone of anything. You didn't have to justify yourself. You didn't have to beg for understanding. You simply existed in truth, and that alone burned through every story they tried to build. Let's talk about the moment they realized the nightmare was real. Not when the attorneys stepped back, not when the influence circle began distancing, not when the network started to crumble. The real moment was when they understood one brutal reality. You were never playing their game to begin with. They were fighting someone imaginary, someone predictable, reactive, fragile. But the real you were operating from a completely different angle. You weren't aiming to defeat them. You were aiming to reveal them. And that difference is what ruined them. Their panic grew louder behind closed doors. Meetings stretched late into the night. Messages became frantic. People who once spoke confidently on their behalf began avoiding involvement. Their own insiders began questioning whether the mission was worth continuing. The energy shifted from confidence to damage control, from arrogance to self-preservation. And all of this was triggered by your refusal to collapse. Let's dissect the psychology here, because this is where the real victory lies. You exposed that their power was nothing but scaffolding, only stable if no one pushed it. And your move didn't push. It simply removed the illusion that you were trapped underneath it. When a structure stands only because people believe it's strong, the moment someone reveals its fragility, it falls under its own weight, not because you toppled it, but because it was always unstable. Your opponents built their identity around being unbeatable, around having resources, influence, connections, legal tools. But those things only matter when the target bows to them. They only work when the target fears them. They only have impact when the target reacts predictably. But you didn't give them the reaction they needed. You offered them nothing to grip. And as they swung harder, your stillness made them hit themselves. That's the part they'll never recover from. That's the detail that will haunt them long after the dust settles. They didn't lose because you outmatched them materially. They lost because you outclassed them mentally. They lost because you didn't get dragged into the chaos. They lost because you stayed grounded when they were spiraling. They lost because you remained aligned when they were scrambling for direction. And the moment you made your calculated move, the entire field shifted in your favor, without you having to manipulate a single soul. This is where their downfall becomes irreversible. Their connections no longer trust their judgment. Their legal team sees the weakness. Their network sees the inconsistencies. Their credibility evaporates. And your presence, steady, composed, and undeniable, becomes the quiet center of gravity that pulls the truth into view. Now everything around them is falling apart, piece by piece, and they know exactly when it started. The moment you made that one move. They replay that moment in their heads every night, and it gets heavier each time. It's not the move itself that haunts them. It's the fact that you didn't panic while making it. You didn't fumble. You didn't hesitate. There was no trembling hand, no scattered attempts to defend yourself, no frantic reactions. You executed with a level of clarity they didn't think you possessed. And now they're sitting in the ruins of their own creation, realizing the one truth they refused to accept. Their entire plan depended on your fear. When fear didn't show up, their structure didn't just crack. It imploded. The attorneys they hired weren't cheap. They were the kind of legal professionals people brag about hiring, the kind that intimidate through reputation alone. But none of that mattered when the foundation they were asked to stand on began slipping beneath them. At first, these attorneys approached your case with confidence. They thought they were dealing with someone ordinary, someone predictable, someone easy to corner. But as the inconsistencies in the story came to light, timelines contradicting, statements shifting, evidence bending under scrutiny, the attorneys started noticing a pattern. The lies weren't supported by facts. The facts couldn't carry the weight of the claims. And your one move exposed all of it. Behind closed doors, their attorneys exchanged glances they hoped their client wouldn't see. The kind of glances professionals give when they realize they're dealing with a matter that cannot be polished, no matter how much they spin it. The kind of realization that whispers, "We can't fix this." And it's not because of the opposition, it's because our own side created an unfixable narrative. Some attorneys withdrew quietly, citing workload or conflict. But the truth was simpler. They didn't want to burn their credibility defending a collapsing client. Others stayed, but reduced their involvement, knowing the outcome was already decided by the evidence you effortlessly brought forth. And the connections, those influential figures who were once so eager to push against you, watched all this unfold from a safe distance. They saw the attorneys losing momentum. They saw the narrative beginning to crumble. They saw the inconsistencies stacking faster than the excuses. And in their world, public association is everything. If a person looks incompetent, their allies disappear before the fallout touches them. So one by one, these connections slipped away. The calls stopped being returned. The promises became vague. The once powerful supporters who claimed they would handle it suddenly claimed they needed to reevaluate the situation. You didn't chase them. You didn't remind them of the favors they once promised. You simply let them walk away, and that made your stance even stronger. Their network? That was the final thread holding the entire operation together, and your single move unraveled it with almost poetic precision. Their network thrived on group pressure, people repeating things they barely understood, backing up narratives they didn't investigate, believing whatever they were told because they had been conditioned to trust the source. But networks built on manipulation always fall when truth enters the room. And you introduced truth so quietly, so cleanly, that their entire web began to tear. Members of that network started noticing contradictions. They saw how the story changed depending on who was telling it. They saw how evidence didn't line up. They saw how every explanation required another explanation. And no matter how much their leaders tried to tighten the narrative, it kept slipping through their fingers. Some members backed out publicly, some privately, and some pretended they were never involved. But each departure weakened the structure until it finally collapsed. Meanwhile, you did nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical, no grand speeches, no emotional outbursts, no elaborate attempts to avenge yourself. You just lived with clarity, and clarity is something their entire operation lacked. That's what makes this so devastating to them. The realization that the power they believed was absolute was actually fragile. The influence they believed was unbreakable was actually conditional. And the network they believed was loyal was actually opportunistic. Let's talk about what happened internally to them, because this is where the real collapse begins. When people who rely on influence start losing grip of their audience, they don't simply accept defeat. They spiral. They become frantic behind closed doors. They try to repair what can't be repaired. They start demanding loyalty from people who only supported them out of convenience. They call emergency meetings. They rewrite stories. They blame everyone but themselves. And most importantly, they start obsessing over the person who disrupted everything. You. It's not obsession born from revenge anymore. It's obsession born from confusion. They don't understand how someone with fewer resources, fewer connections, fewer protections, and less influence managed to break a structure they believed was invincible. They can't process that your victory came not from fighting harder, but from refusing to engage in their chaos. They expected a battle. You gave them reflection, and reflection shows truth with no filter. That truth was simple. Your move didn't just expose their lies, it exposed their weakness. And weakness in positions of influence is fatal. Their downfall spreads like cracks through a frozen lake. Slow at first, then instant. They lose control of the narrative. They lose the confidence of their allies. They lose the certainty they once had. Every attempt to regain momentum makes them look more unsteady. Every attempt to clarify their story makes it more convoluted. And every attempt to explain away the inconsistencies makes people question their motives even more. Now imagine the internal pressure they feel watching you continue forward while they sink. You didn't lose sleep. You didn't lose alignment. You didn't lose your voice. You didn't lose your path. You simply kept moving. And that calm progression from you is what shatters them. People like them can fight opponents who argue. They can fight opponents who panic. They can fight opponents who react emotionally. But they cannot fight someone who is grounded. They cannot fight someone who is certain. And most importantly, they cannot fight someone who doesn't crumble under intimidation. When you made that one move, you shifted the entire dynamic. Suddenly, they weren't the hunters. They weren't the ones in control. They weren't the ones dictating the outcome. They became exposed, vulnerable, and desperate. And the more desperate they became, the more mistakes they made. This is where your victory becomes absolute. Not because you pushed them over the edge, but because they ran off the edge themselves, trying to chase an illusion of control. Let's dissect the emotional collapse they experienced. Before your move, they were confident. They believed they had the advantage. They believed everything was in their favor. They believed they had boxed you in so tightly that escape was impossible. And then Your move happened. One step, one decision, one moment of clarity, and suddenly everything they believed evaporated. Confidence turned into uncertainty. Uncertainty turned into anxiety. Anxiety turned into distress. Distress turned into obsession, and obsession turned into self-destruction. It wasn't just a loss, it was a collapse of identity. People with influence measure themselves by their ability to control outcomes. When they lose control, they lose themselves. And your move didn't just remove their control. It exposed that they never really had any to begin with. They had leverage, yes, but leverage only works on people willing to bend. They had influence, yes, but influence only works on people who seek approval. They had strategies, yes, but strategies only work on people who play within the lines. You didn't bend, you didn't seek, you didn't play. That's what ruined them. And now, watching everything crumble, they feel something far heavier than defeat. They feel humiliation, not the kind that fades, the kind that stains reputations, lingers in conversations, clings to their name long after the situation is over, the kind that makes allies hesitate, the kind that makes enemies smirk, the kind that follows them into every room, every call, every meeting. They can't hide from it because everyone saw the collapse in real time. Everyone watched them flex influence and then lose everything to someone they underestimated. People talk, and the most powerful conversations happen in whispers, behind curtains, in private exchanges where reputations are decided. Those whispers aren't in their favor anymore. They are the topic of what went wrong. They are the warning of don't make their mistake. They are the lesson of power doesn't matter if you can't manage yourself. People who once admired them now question their judgment. People who once trusted them now analyze their motives. People who once followed them now keep a distance. And through all of this, you remain steady. That's the contrast that seals their fate. Your steadiness amplifies their collapse. Your clarity exposes their chaos. Your resilience highlights their fragility. You didn't have to destroy them. They destroyed themselves. Because your existence revealed what they truly were. And now, with nothing left to hide behind, they face a realization that cuts deeper than any legal defeat or social backlash. They lost to someone who refused to lower themselves to their level. They lost to someone who didn't need influence to be heard. They lost to someone who didn't need connections to stand firm. They lost to someone who didn't need hidden deals to navigate pressure. They lost to someone who didn't need manipulation to make an impact. They lost to someone who didn't fight because truth did the work for them. Now comes the part that terrifies them the most. Your move wasn't designed to destroy them. It wasn't even designed to counter them. It was simply aligned with your truth. And that truth was stronger than all the resources they gathered. That truth was louder than all the narratives they crafted. That truth was sharper than all the tools they tried to use against you. Their world revolved around control. Your world revolved around clarity. And clarity always wins, not through aggression, but through inevitability of outcome. They can't fight clarity. They can't manipulate it. They can't corrupt it. And they can't overpower someone who stands firmly in it. So now they sit in the aftermath, surrounded by remnants of strategies that failed, surrounded by people who no longer want to be associated with them, surrounded by the consequences of their own miscalculations, surrounded by the echoes of their own arrogance. And every piece of that collapse points back to you. More painfully, it points back to a single moment from you. One move, one decision, one act of precision. That's all it took. They spent weeks planning, months preparing, and countless resources gathering their arsenal. They crafted documents. They hosted meetings. They whispered in corners. They strategized attacks. They rehearsed narratives. But none of that mattered, because the entire structure was flawed at the root. And your move didn't create the flaw, it revealed it. This is where the shift intensifies. They finally understand that you weren't backing down. You weren't intimidated. You weren't shaken. You weren't playing defense. You were letting them exhaust themselves. You let them expose their own weaknesses. You let them show the world who they really were. You let them unravel their own credibility. And when the right moment came, you punctured the illusion with a single strike. Now the consequences multiply, their influence circle, it's gone. Or worse, it's turned into a ring of observers who are analyzing their downfall like a case study. People are documenting the errors. People are discussing the collapse. People are evaluating every step that led to their destruction. And none of those steps point to you. They point to the desperation that consumed them. Their legal team completely retreating. They're not interested in salvaging this anymore. They know the fire is too big. They know the damage is irreversible. They know no argument, no tactic, no angle can salvage a narrative that was already collapsing before you even responded. Their network scattered, completely fractured. Each person pulling away to protect their own name. Each member trying to distance themselves from the chaos. Some even switching sides, not out of loyalty to you, but out of recognition that siding with truth is safer than siding with desperation. And you, still steady, still centered, still untouched. That's what devastates them the most. You didn't just outmaneuver their resources, you revealed the emptiness behind those resources. You showed that influence does not equal integrity, that power does not equal stability, that connections do not equal strength. You showed that the strongest person in any confrontation is the one who doesn't need to pretend. And here's the turning point, the part where their collapse evolves into something deeper. They now understand that your move wasn't luck. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't reactionary. It was intentional. It was calibrated. It was timed with precision. It was executed without hesitation. And now they ask themselves questions they don't want to answer. What else does this person know? What else can they do? How did we not see this coming? What other moves have they prepared but haven't used yet? How do we stop someone who destroyed everything with one decision? They don't have answers, and that is exactly why their panic grows. They fear the silence between your actions. They fear the clarity in your demeanor. They fear the strength in your restraint. They fear the fact that you didn't use force. Because if one quiet move defeated them, what would happen if you ever decided to apply pressure? They don't want to imagine that. They don't want to think about what else you're capable of. They don't want to confront the idea that you're 3 steps ahead while they're scrambling to repair the damage from a battle you didn't even show up to. This is the part where their downfall becomes not just irreversible, but instructional. They learn the hard way that influence cannot overpower authenticity. They learn that hidden deals cannot overpower alignment. They learn that backroom strategies cannot overpower transparency. They learn that pressure cannot overpower clarity. And they learn that a single person standing firmly in truth can dismantle an entire network built on false narratives. Your move wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant to impress. It was meant to reveal. And reveal it did. Every weak foundation, every manipulated detail, every dishonest tactic, every fabricated storyline, every compromised ally. You didn't just wipe them out. You exposed that they were already falling apart long before you stepped in. Your move was simply the moment the world noticed. You become the reference point, the moment people replay when they talk about collapse, when they discuss unraveling, when they explain how pressure exposes character. Your move turned into the line where their identity as untouchable snapped in half. Their influence didn't weaken over time. It shattered instantly the moment truth surfaced. And the beauty of this collapse is that it wasn't imposed on them. It was triggered. Their downfall came from their own hands, their own decisions, their own arrogance. You didn't force anything. You didn't manipulate outcomes. You didn't pull strings. You simply stood inside truth long enough for their lies to run out of breath. Now they're left standing in front of the wreckage, trying to understand how everything slipped away so fast. People like them always believe the world owes them a soft landing. They expect backup plans to catch them. They expect allies to shield them. They expect resources to be enough. But not this time. Not against you. Because every backup plan they relied on became useless once you delivered your one decisive move. Their allies didn't shield them, they vanished. Their resources didn't protect them, they exposed contradictions. Their reputation didn't soften the blow, it intensified the glare of their failure. And every person watching now sees them clearly for the first time. You didn't just defeat them, you redefined them. Before you, they were seen as powerful. After you, they're seen as careless, unstrategic, predictable, and deeply fragile. Before you, people followed their lead unquestioned. After you, people question everything they say. Before you, their influence opened doors. After you, their name triggers hesitation. Not because you tarnished them, but because they used their power irresponsibly, and the world finally saw it. Your move didn't just dismantle their plan, it exposed their entire pattern. This is the part they didn't prepare for. They prepared for resistance, not exposure. They prepared for conflict, not reflection. They prepared for a fight, not a mirror. They had no strategy for being seen accurately, and that accuracy is what breaks them. Because once accuracy hits someone who built their identity on projection, there is no recovery. They don't know how to stand without validation. They don't know how to operate without advantage. They don't know how to breathe without narrative control. And now, stripped of all these external supports, they can't function. You, on the other hand, haven't changed. Your posture is the same. Your voice is steady. Your direction is intact. Your clarity is unshaken. That consistency makes your victory even more powerful because it proves that the chaos they created was never inside you. It was inside them. You were not the unstable variable in their story. They were. You were not the unpredictable force. They were. Their entire attack was built on assumptions that had nothing to do with your real character. And that disconnect is what destroyed them. Their lawyers now sit in meeting rooms discussing what went wrong. They analyze documents they once believed were airtight, now realizing each one contained tiny fractures, that your truth widened into chasms. Their influence circle replays conversations, realizing how they willingly supported a narrative that didn't stand up to scrutiny. Their network scans old messages, noticing the red flags they ignored. Their allies privately regret ever getting involved. And every one of these realizations strikes at the core of their identity. Because people in positions of influence can't handle being wrong publicly. They can't handle being exposed privately. and they cannot handle being defeated by someone they underestimated. You weren't supposed to win. You weren't supposed to stand. You weren't supposed to make that move. But you did. And that act rewrote everything. Let's explore what your victory truly means. Because it's deeper than reputation or resources. It's about psychological dominance, the kind earned through endurance, not aggression. The kind that emerges from clarity, not chaos. The kind that comes from being anchored, not reactive. They spent everything trying to knock you off your center. But every attempt only highlighted how firmly you were rooted. They came with attorneys. You came with alignment. They came with pressure. You came with precision. They came with a narrative. You came with truth. They came with a network. You came with a move. And the impact of that contrast is what ended them. Now they carry the weight of their own decisions. And it's heavy, heavier than they expected. They thought pressure was something they applied, not something they would experience. But now they carry the pressure of public scrutiny, private guilt, internal confusion, fractured alliances, and the loss of control that once defined them. Every person they once impressed now watches them with reservation. Every person who once supported them now questions their motives. Every person who once followed their lead now wonders what else they fabricated. It's not just defeat, it's recalibration. They were repositioned by their own actions, and the placement isn't flattering. They are no longer seen as leaders. They are seen as manipulators who couldn't sustain their own illusion. They are no longer seen as powerful. They are seen as reckless individuals who overestimated their reach. They are no longer seen as authoritative. They are seen as emotional amateurs who couldn't handle resistance. And all of this changed because you stayed right where you were meant to be, unmoved. This is what they failed to understand from the beginning. Strength isn't the absence of challenge. Strength is the refusal to break under it. You didn't break. You didn't fold. You didn't crumble. You watched. You analyzed. You waited. And when the timing was right, you delivered the move that aligned everything into place. A single, calculated step. Not forceful, not reactive, not reckless, clean, sharp, final. And because of that, you now stand in a position they can't reach, a position above tactics, a position above manipulation, a position above fear, a position above doubt, a position above them. Your move didn't just end their strategy, it ended their confidence. They can never again see themselves as invincible. They can never again trust the strength of their influence. They can never again assume that pulling strings will solve their problems. They can never again look at you the same way. And the discomfort of that is what keeps them up at night. Let's look at what happens to people when their identity collapses. First, they search for a scapegoat. They blame everyone around them, lawyers, advisors, allies, circumstances. But the one person they won't blame, the one truth they cannot accept, is that their failure came from inside. Because if they admit that, they must face the fact that their entire foundation was built on insecurity, disguised as power. And they're not emotionally equipped for that level of honesty. So they avoid it, they deny it, they rewrite it. But no matter how hard they try, the evidence remains. Your single move exposed everything they worked to hide. Then comes the second stage, resentment. Not toward the people who abandoned them, not toward the advisors who misled them, not toward the strategies that failed, but toward you. Not because you wronged them, but because you reminded them of what they are not. You reminded them of discipline. You reminded them of clarity. You reminded them of strength. You reminded them of stability. You reminded them of restraint, and these reminders cut deeper than any legal defeat ever could. Because when a person sees someone embodying qualities they lack, it magnifies their emptiness. Finally comes the third stage, submission. Quiet, unspoken, unacknowledged. They won't admit it in public, but internally they know they cannot touch you anymore. They know you see through them. They know you cannot be manipulated. They know you cannot be controlled. They know your clarity is stronger than their connections. And because of that, they know approaching you again is a losing game. You took away their advantage without lifting a finger. And here is the part that seals the ending. The world no longer fears them, but they fear you. Not because you're aggressive, not because you're vengeful, not because you're powerful in the traditional sense. They fear you because you have something they cannot replicate: internal alignment. When a person acts from alignment, they become impossible to corner. Pressure rolls off them, lies lose power over them, manipulation cannot sway them, and attacks only expose the attacker. You operate from that center. They operate from desperation, and desperation always loses. You didn't just survive their strategy. You dismantled an entire hierarchy of influence by being the one person who didn't bow to it. You didn't hide when they tried to bury you. You didn't defend yourself when they tried to distort you. You didn't panic when they tried to overwhelm you. You didn't react when they tried to provoke you. And that self-control broke them more deeply than any counterattack could. Your single move didn't just end their plan. It ended the image they built of themselves. It ended the false authority they projected. It ended the illusion that they were above consequences. And as you walk forward, they remain stuck behind, replaying their errors like a loop that won't stop spinning. You left them with the one thing people like them cannot handle: consequences with no escape route. And now, standing in the aftermath, breathing in the clarity you've earned, something else becomes undeniable. This wasn't just a win. This wasn't just a reversal. This wasn't just a collapse. This was a full redefinition of who holds power. They had everything stacked in their favor: lawyers, influence, backdoor deals, networks, strategies, alliances, money, manipulation, pressure. And still, one calculated move from you ended their entire story. You weren't supposed to be their downfall. You weren't supposed to be their obstacle. You weren't supposed to be their turning point. But that's what happens when someone moves with precision. And deep down, they now understand the truth they feared most. You didn't defeat them. You revealed them. And that revelation will follow them for the rest of their lives. Because once you've been exposed by truth, there is no rebuilding the old identity. There is no returning to who you were. There is no recovering the illusion. They are no longer the powerful ones. They are the example of what happens when arrogance meets clarity, of what happens when manipulation meets alignment, of what happens when influence meets integrity, of what happens when pressure meets someone who cannot be bent. And as you walk past the ruins of their collapse, one final realization settles into the dust behind you. A person who stands firmly in truth doesn't need an army. They don't need allies. They don't need influence. They don't need backdoor deals. They don't need lawyers. They need one move, executed at the right time. And you made that move. That's why you're untouchable now. That's why the story ends with you standing tall. And that's why their entire empire fell at your feet. That single moment was enough to rewrite everything.